Thank you all so much for being here. I'm a little emotional because what a great story, honestly. One, I love camping. I don't know about you all, but I love a nice little awkward weekend in the woods. I guess my first question is for Corey. Corey, tell me how this film came about.
Sure. First of all, thank you guys so much for coming out here. I'm really, really glad you all made it. This was really fun to watch with you. This is only our third time watching it with an audience at all, so this was really thrilling. Yeah, it was an idea that I kind of got in high school when I was dealing with some of the same things that Jamie is dealing with. And I sort of started to write the movie almost as like a coping mechanism. In a lot of ways, it was like a place to channel my feelings at the time, but it was also a way to sort of dissociate from what was happening, because I was like, oh, like, that's not happening to me, that's happening to a character in a movie I'm writing. But then as I grew up and went to college and stuff like that, like the idea, some form of that idea always stuck with me about essentially just like an unrequited crush that just can't go anywhere because the person that the main character has a crush on is straight or they're older, but it's that feeling of just like hitting a brick wall. And I felt like that was something I hadn't really seen explored that much in movies before. I mean, usually it's like if the main character likes somebody else, then eventually that person is gonna like them back or it'll be consummated in some way. But I was just interested to see if we could tell like a full emotional story about somebody that can't get that person but still has to deal with all these feelings that are welling up inside of them, and how they're realizing that they're changing and what they're learning about themselves, and the idea that we could do, like, that would be the story. It's like about how you deal with having that desire when you know that it can't go anywhere. And so that was really exciting to me. And then, yeah, my dad took us to a Yogi Bear themed campground in Kentucky. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, we could make a movie here. Like this, I mean, it would have been fun to film there, but the idea of filming at a campground where you're just like so exposed, and it's like such a private moment in your life, but you're just like sleeping in a tent with your brother, and like you just have no privacy. I thought that would be really funny, and also would just add to the feeling of just like claustrophobia that I remember feeling at that time.
What was also really great is that you have the sort of golden moment of the bathhouse.
Oh, I'm glad you caught that.
I guess my next question is for Isaac. Isaac, congratulations on this. I mean, what an amazing, amazing performance. Tell me a little bit about how you like sort of approach this role. How much is the character like yourself? Do you put a lot of yourself in it? I mean, do you have a penchant for spices? I mean, I thought that was really great. As someone who camps with a lot of spices, I was really kind of like, yes.
Thank you. That's a great question. When I first received the script, I sort of instantly clicked into this kind of understanding of him. Jamie is in nature a very vulnerable person, and the part of the role that I had to reach for was that sense of vulnerability. Jamie is so sweet and innocent, and you know it didn't take everything to do it, because I relate to him in so many ways. Like, you know, I struggled with my own sexual identity crisis, and you know that whole thing was a very prime factor in my head when playing his role. So yeah, Jamie resembles a lot of Isaac too. So yeah, for sure.
So a good spice rack. So a good spice rack when you're camping. Yeah. I guess my next question is for David. David, how did you prepare for your role?
How did I prepare?
I mean, how did you get into the sort of the mind of the role?
Yeah, you know, a lot of it's credit to Corey. You know, when you're a young actor hustling out here, you thank God that you even get a decent script to audition for. And I read it, and I was like, oh yeah, I know exactly what this is. And we met and we talked about storytelling and what it means to collaborate and what it means to tell these human stories. And that's what drew me to it. It's about the characters. There's no green screens, there's no explosions. It's about people talking and learning about themselves. And I knew on the outside looking in that Dan is a bit of a rhetorical device. He's the antagonist to an extent. I mean, you could say it's Will, but it's what makes Jamie wrestle throughout the course of the film. So I thought, I understand that, but I also want to make him a human being. And then you just pull from the script. You do the drama school work. He's from Texas. He's the youngest. He loves to camp. He's good at camping. He's with Allie. And you just show up and put your trust in Corey and in Isaac, and you just hope that the camera picks it up. I mean, that's all I can say.
I mean, honestly, the camera did. The camera did pick it up so well. I mean, there was such a sort of camaraderie that was exhibited on screen between all of the actors on there. I guess, again, for Corey, how did you, why did you choose the ending that you did? I felt like the situation, I loved the agency that was sort of like dealt with at the end. You don't often see, especially young characters, with that sort of agency, and the way that the sort of the revelation was sort of handled at the end was dealt with such kindness and such sort of humanity. Tell me why you made those sort of decisions.
Well, that was part of my thinking around like how do we have closure in a movie like this where there's no consummation between these characters, and we don't want that as an audience, but we still need to have a feeling of like Jamie has reached like the end point of this arc. And I felt like the story's like so much about him gaining courage and coming into his own and feeling comfortable with himself in a way where he doesn't have to put on any sort of performance or like hide behind anything in order to impress Dan. He can just sort of bear it all and know that that's okay, because he's seen through the sort of like the masculinity that he like idealizes in the beginning of the movie. He is sort of seen through the performance of it, both in his brother and in Dan, so he feels comfortable. He's like, oh, I'm not afraid of this guy anymore. And I, in my own life, have like, just like dealt with like a really like fraught and confusing relationship with straight men, because I love my dad, I love my brother, like I grew up like with a ton of straight friends and feel very, very close to them, but there was always that distance and that fear that like by being gay or by being too femme or anything like that, I would be like kicked out of the boys club. And I so badly wanted to stay in the boys club because I had genuine love for the boys club, but I wanted to do something where there was like we could have an ending that showed like Dan and Jamie like reaching like mutual respect and like harmony between each other, to show that that's possible, that like there doesn't need to be this like really fraught and intense and aggressive relationship between gay and straight men, that there can be this sense of like equality and tenderness and like mutual affection, and that Jamie, like you're saying, like he's the one who takes agency, he spearheads that, and then Dan follows his lead. I thought that would just be a nice way to end the movie.
I mean, what was really great too is that the ending, the sort of middle part where they're getting lost, and Dan sort of has this sort of freak out. Yeah. It kind of mirrors the ending very well, because it's this sort of like exchange of care that sort of happens. That was really kind of amazing. One question for Allison: how did you get involved in this project?
Thankfully, it was basically a mutual friend connected us when I was looking for a new project and Corey was looking for a producer, and we had a Zoom and pretty much hit it off from there. And we're so grateful every day that friend put us in touch, because it put us on this trajectory.
Well, and I also just want to say about that, like I just knew immediately that Allison would be perfect for this, because she just so understood the tone of the movie. She immediately was like, have you seen a movie called Tomboy by Celine Sciamma? Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, I haven't, but I really like Celine Sciamma. And then I watched it and I was like, oh, like this is exactly the kind of movie we're trying to make. So I knew that Allison just like so fundamentally understood the tone. And ever since then, it's been like, in addition to like logistical and like all the producing work that goes into this, like a creative partnership, like through every step of just like writing the movie, shooting the movie, and editing. Like Allison is the person that I turn to. It's like a creative partnership on the movie, and it's been like essential to getting to this point.
Marion, I don't want to leave you out on the panel. How did you sort of prepare for your role? Is your character like you? Are you an anime fiend? Is it dub and sub or is it just sub?
It's both. It depends. I do like anime a lot. I actually forgot I was gonna wear Ghibli earrings, but I forgot them, so I was kind of sad about that. But what Erica's very close to me. Like, I would say I feel like she's more nervous like I used to be, but like I've stepped into my own like now. Like through COVID and stuff. Yeah, and it's like the feeling of being always second choice compared to her sister. And felt that, but yeah, I think so.
I want to open up the questions to the audience. Anybody have a question in the audience? Come on, don't be shy. Right there in the front. Oh.
Just a comment. Whoever decided to put the Bastard Yard French cookie in the tent?
That was a big plant right there. You found that Easter egg.
So Corey, what was your favorite film to scene to film? Sorry.
Sorry,
What was your favorite scene in the movie to film?
Yeah, the taboo scene was really fun. Like that night was such a high because the actors were actually playing taboo with each other, and we had 2 cameras filming, and so to watch them just fully inhabit their characters, but also just be in the throes of like playing this game and getting really into it, it was just so fun. And Isaac dancing that night, just like the crew was like dancing behind the camera, like there was nothing. It was just no other night like it. Yeah. That was like a real turning point where like I just remember shooting that night and just feeling like I was like, oh, like there's a chance that like this movie will be like the thing that I really dreamed it would be. And I was already getting that feeling, but like there was something that like made it really concrete. And then also the scene, I have a special fondness for the scene where Jamie's talking to Dan and Allie through the tent, and he just like won't leave. Because that was like a moment where I feel like that was like an early moment where we sort of had like the original idea of what that scene was going to be, and then we just started like playing around with different versions of it, and you did like a ton of improv because you're talking to a tent. I mean, and David was inside the tent and playing off of you, but I just remember getting this feeling of like Isaac can do anything, like, and being really excited, and that was pretty early on in the shoot, and so that was like a very good like confidence boost for the rest. Yeah.
I'm going to take that question and turn it to Isaac as well. What was your favorite scene to film?
I have to say, the taboo scene is probably up there. But I mean, personally, I had a lot of fun with that fake fall. Like, that was pretty fun. But I can't like pinpoint it to one. I have lots of fun moments from like all of them. So.
I think we had a question up here.
Hi, yes, I was just curious if you made a choice to have Jamie divulge his huge realization just to Dan and not to any of the family members. Like, was that a conscious choice?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. I mean, that was something that I think was like I remember when I first came out, there was a feeling of like, oh, it would be easier to tell someone that's almost a stranger than someone in my own personal life, because that it just felt so much lower risk. And I liked the idea that this is like a baby step for Jamie. Like, we're seeing the very, very beginning. It's like this is like a major turning point, but because it's only like a weekend-long camping trip, there's not that much time for like a seismic change in his behavior and the way that he presents to the world. But I like the idea that he was making a very bold but small step, and that because, you know, we don't know, like maybe Dan and Allie will break up, maybe he truly won't ever see Dan again, but there's actually something that's a little safe in that as just like a first like emergence. And like Alice and I have talked about this a lot. I think, you know, of course we like the idea that like his family will be next, but I think that I liked the idea that like a reaction from someone like Dan would give him enough confidence to sort of carry on and do what can sometimes feel like the harder thing of like telling your immediate family and stuff.
I have one question for Corey. Were there any improvised scenes like in the movie?
Yeah. There was a ton of improv. I mean, the taboo scene was like almost entirely improvised. Like I said, that scene where he's talking to the tent, there was a lot of improv there. The scene where you are like warning them about the the bears, yeah. We had like a very rough sketch of that.
But yeah, like we played around a lot with that little dialogue, and it was fun. Yeah.
You just had like an endless amount of things to say about bear safety. I couldn't even tell if you had done research, if you like already knew that stuff.
No, I just have ADHD, so kind of just hyperfixate on a lot of things. Oh, I guess hold on to it.
Hi. This movie is really funny. Can you talk about making and playing in a movie that's funny like this?
Who is this question directed to?
Oh, like you want to hear from actors as well?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What was the question again?
Can you all talk about your experience in making a funny movie?
It's fun. It really like depends on like the like actors to like play off of. And it was a funny script, and it was just fun to do. I guess I'm nervous. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I think you can't look at it like it's a comedy. You have to play it truthfully, and the comedy comes from the awkwardness. The comedy comes from, oh, I've lived that before. I'm nervous right now. I mean, obviously it's testament to Corey's writing, but I mean, we did a movie with Isaac. Like it's easy to laugh. Like everyone's trying to not break. No, but it's fun. You can't look at it like, oh, I want to be funny in this scene. You got to do it truthfully, and if it's true, then the writing will do the work for you.
So I hate to bring it down a level, but comedy for me has always been a very helpful coping mechanism. I've always kind of cracked jokes about things, and a lot of the time they've been inherently awkward, and that's what makes them funny sometimes. But especially with Jamie, like Jamie maybe is not consciously using comedy as a coping mechanism, but like David said, the awkwardness comes off as comedy because it's just surreal, like oh shit, like that's so real. So yeah, the comedy really came into it, like it just was there. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, and I think I was just gonna add to that. That was for me that was like the biggest change, because I had made stuff before that was comedy that sort of came at the expense of the main character. It was like making fun of some like pathology they had, or just like some issue, or like how narcissistic they were, or anything else like that. Because I mean, I grew up like watching like Seinfeld and Curb Your Enthusiasm, so like I love like really like vicious comedy. But I feel like something that I kept on learning in this process was like I wanted us to be laughing with Jamie. I never wanted it to be like the movie to be mocking him or to like lose his perspective. And so I think that was a testament to, I mean, honestly, all of you, like how seriously you played it. You like were never winking at the audience, and you just like you totally played the emotional reality of it, and it just makes it like such a delight to watch and so much funnier, I think.
How much of that palpable awkwardness was a credit to the script, and how much was the actors just riffing off of each
Terrific
other?
question. I think you have an answer to it too, but like the awkwardness probably wasn't as evident in the script in like from scene to scene. I think I definitely spiced up Jamie with a little bit of socially not understanding, I guess, of a lot of stuff, and that's like I don't know where I'm going with this actually.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, there's stuff in there like that we didn't really like go that deep into like Jamie's physicality.
Yeah.
But like you're doing all these things like where you're like very fidgety, and like I think that adds so much to.
Yeah, I think that's what I was getting at actually.
Yeah, and then I mean I couldn't believe sometimes. I mean all of you. I mean I remember like Marion, the way that you would like time out silences so perfectly in these scenes, so I didn't have to edit it. Like we could just play it in the 2 shots because I was like, oh yeah, like Marion is saying it exactly at the right time and giving us exactly the right breaths. Like your guys' sense of timing with that stuff really blew me away, and that was a gift. I mean, I definitely wanted the movie to like have. I knew that like some of those silences would really help us and would be really funny. But yeah, I mean, so much of that was just like the rehearsal and feeling it out with the actors and everything. Yeah.
We have time for one more question from the audience.
So you said this is the 3rd time watching it with an audience. I'm curious to hear, were there sometimes reactions that you weren't expecting, and then both unexpectedly, like, oh, I wasn't expecting to laugh there, or you were expecting to laugh somewhere? That what was your experience with having an audience?
Yeah, totally. I have some questions for you people. I'm no, in a good way, because yeah, I was actually just talking about this with David earlier of just like, I really do feel like it's like hard to understand the movie you've made until you've seen it with an audience. Like the movie's not actually done yet. Like, and I think that it's always really vivid to me because I grew up making videos on YouTube, and so would almost never watch them with audiences. But then, getting like a chance to do a night like this, I'm like, okay, like I feel like I understand my own movie so much better. But yeah, I mean, there's totally moments in here where I didn't expect laughter, but I don't think it's a bad thing. Like I actually think that it's a sign that people are really identifying with and connecting and rooting for Jamie and feeling for him, especially in uncomfortable moments.
We might have some nervous laughers in here.
Okay, I want to thank everyone for joining us. Yes, give everyone an applause.